So we're going to do something a little bit new today, and maybe it'll be a recurring opportunity, a recurring segment at school meeting. It's going to be called 10 Minutes With, in which we'll have the pleasure of talking to or hearing from a member of our Thayer community, whether it's a past person like an alum, or maybe a member of our present community, who are doing important and exciting things here on campus or somewhere out in the world. So today our inaugural guest for 10 Minutes With is the awesome and talented Teresa Hsiao, class of 2003. This is her first time in the CFA. We just walked into this space for the first time, which is great for her to see. She is a television and film writer and producer, currently living the dream, her dream, in Los Angeles and also New York. Can we switch slides? You may not necessarily know her name or her face, but you undoubtedly will recognize some of these faces. In addition to writing for TV shows like American Dad, Family Guy, and Fresh Off the Boat, she is the co-creator, writer, and executive producer of Awkwafina is Nora From Queens, and co-wrote the screenplay for the 2023 comedy Joyride. She graduated from Harvard with a degree in economics and currently serves as a member of the board of trustees here at Thayer. Let's give a big, warm Thayer welcome to Teresa Hsiao. All right, thank you so much for being here.
So happy to be here. I've never been in this building before. It's way different from when I was here.
And now you get to be on stage. All right,
yes.
So there's a timer that's now clicking above our heads.
Wow,
so we have 10
there's
minutes,
pressure.
And this is the first time we've ever done this, so maybe it'll become 12 minutes with as opposed to 10. But I'm going to start right off with, so you're a comedy writer. How did you become funny?
You know, this is something that people ask a lot when you're a comedy writer. They ask you to tell them jokes because they think that you need to immediately tell jokes, but I don't tell jokes unless I'm being paid for it. So,
okay. Yeah, we're not paying you today at all, so there'll be no jokes.
So I'm telling no jokes today, but I think it's kind of funny when they say, oh, you're a comedy writer, tell me a joke, but it's like if you meet a doctor, you don't immediately say like, oh, I have this weird thing, diagnose me.
Right, don't okay, sure, yeah.
So I don't know how I became one. I think it was actually Mr. Cedrone here.
Okay.
His dry sense of humor really rubbed off on me. So
Where's
I don't know if he's here. Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're to blame.
You're to blame for this.
All right.
For all the movies, yeah.
But seriously, when you become a comedy writer, how do you perfect this art of actually writing funny things? I think sometimes we all think we're very funny, and then we put it out to a larger audience, and not everyone agrees with that. So how did you become better at it?
So it's funny because actually a lot of comedy writers, when you meet them, they're weird people.
Okay.
So they come out and you're like, oh, they're strange, or they've done improv. But a lot of times, especially as a writer, you don't necessarily need to be funny outwardly, but you can be funny on paper.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of times you'll meet these writers and they're just kind of normal people and they don't actually have this outsized personality. They're not comedians. They're not standing out on stage.
They don't have a shtick going.
They don't have a shtick all the time.
Okay.
They don't have bits.
Who are your comedy writer or comedian heroes that you wanted to emulate?
I remember when I first even thought about this as a career, Margaret Cho was a huge name.
Oh, sure.
And she was kind of the only person who looked like me, and she was actually doing, she was famous and actually a comedian,
Yeah.
but there were very few other role models that I thought looked like me. But again, I wasn't necessarily like, oh, I want to be a comedian. I just thought I really loved writing.
Yeah.
And I was here at Thayer, and I wrote a lot of short stories. I was a part of Voice, and I thought I was going to be a serious writer, but it didn't happen.
Right. So when you think about when you started in the entertainment industry and to now, so much has changed. What are the bigger or biggest things you're seeing that's changed in the industry in the relatively short time you've been in it?
I think the nicest thing that I've seen is just the diversity of faces. So you get to see so many more stories that you didn't get to see before. So again, when I was growing up, I would always see TV shows, and it was a lot of times it was people who didn't look like me.
Okay.
But the great thing about movies and TV is that you get to see these people, and then you actually get to kind of inhabit their worlds. You're like, oh, I want to be like Rachel from Friends. I want to, I understand her. And I think that that's what is great about movies and TV, especially in this kind of polarized world we're living in, right? Where you can't get a lot of people to agree on certain things.
Yeah.
You get a group of people in a room, everyone has a different opinion. But especially in movies and TV, if you're doing it well, in a movie, everyone knows who the bad guy is, and everyone's rooting against the bad guy. And so it's a really great opportunity when you're thinking about, oh, I'm gonna create this world, I'm gonna create this story, that you can get everyone on one side of things, and that really helps shape culture.
I'm wondering, just in the times in which we're living right now, and I'm taking the time, I'm keeping an eye, we're good. How do you stay true to yourself as a comedian and manage the fears of offending people, and falling on the other line of people's sensibilities of what's okay in 2024?
I think the biggest thing is just, you're never punching down. I mean, I know I've been part of some shows where there was some punching down,
Yeah.
certainly some offensive shows. But at the same time, I think my ethos is you want to be part of the people who are telling the jokes. And so a lot of times in comedy in the past, you would be kind of punching down at people, you're, stereotyping groups. But I think that that's something that I personally don't want to do. I want to be a part of the group where all of a sudden the people who used to be the butt of the joke are now telling the joke.
Cool. Have you ever been in that moment where you, with your family, with your relatives, are watching something that you wrote and you sort of wonder, like, how are they going to react to that?
Absolutely,
Okay,
all the
yeah.
time. Especially in my career, I've done a lot of shows that are sort of more adult,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more R-rated.
Okay.
That may not
Joyride
be.
was R-rated, right?
Joyride is very R-rated, and I would say it's probably not appropriate for a high school audience.
Okay.
But
We won't be having the screening. later
no
tonight.
screening here. But at the same time, I think the exciting thing was being able to watch it with my family,
Okay.
and also showcase, again, here are these people who you've never gotten to see do these crazy things before. They're doing all these inappropriate things that kids shouldn't be doing. But at the same time, isn't that cool? Like, isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
And actually being able to, uplift a community that really, in the past, was always like, oh, here they are. They're like the quiet one in the corner, or the nerd. But now they're doing these fun and cool things.
So I imagine some of us think of like working in Hollywood and writing for TV and for film as this glorious living. Can you tell us?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Can you speak to what is glorious about it and what may be less glorious, just to give people a sense of what that life really looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the reason I really wanted to work in TV and movies was I loved watching TV and movies, and I thought this would be cool if it were my job.
Yeah.
And it would be cool if I got to go home and just watch TV and not get yelled at, because I'm researching, this is my job,
You're
I'm
doing your
studying.
homework, right? Yeah.
And so that's the really cool thing about it, is actually being able to say, like, oh, I'm gonna write something down, and then all of a sudden be able to see it on screen. And the hard thing about it is, especially like a show like Family Guy, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, that show, from writing it, and it always starts with a writer, it takes about a year for it to actually get on screen. So you're writing it, and then you rewrite it, and then you have to go get it animated, and then you rewrite it again, and then the actors come in, they record it, and you keep on rewriting it. So it is really an iterative process. You're always changing, you're always trying to make it better.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't always get better, but at the same time, it's a long process. And especially with live action TV too. Like this scene, just the two of us, if we were to film the scene, we would have to get your coverage, we would have to get my coverage, we would have to redo the scene over and over again.
Sure.
And it's very boring to watch someone say the same things over and over again.
So when you think about what inspired you when you were here, and what prepared you, besides Mr. Cedrone's dry humor?
Mr. Cedrone really, the math did it. It was like, oh, I don't want to do math. I'm kidding. So many things here being at Thayer. I think it was the first time really feeling like this is like a huge community that I really feel part of, having really amazing teachers. And I think also being a part of things, I was saying I was really bad at pottery, and I almost failed pottery. But I think the thing was just crazy,
Is
because
Mr. Branfman here?
how can you fail pottery? I'm so embarrassed.
Okay, we won't tell him.
But I was really bad at it, and I think that's actually something that's cool, is that at Thayer, you can be really bad at something, but that's okay. It's something that I think, especially as you grow up and you kind of go through life, it's like, you're not gonna be good at everything, and it's being bad at something and being able to push through it, or being able to be like, you know what, I'm having the humility to say I will never do pottery, or I should ever do pottery, but I can try and do better at other things.
Sure. So if you could go back and give advice, pre-2003 to you as a freshman at Thayer, and maybe advice that also could be extrapolated for all of our students, what advice do you wish you knew at that time?
I actually wish I had taken down more notes. Like I wish that as you know, and especially now, I think it's a little bit easier just to like write down little funny things that happened every single day, because that's what I do in life, is like I take from a lot of the things that happen every day. If something funny happens, maybe I write that down, and then perhaps I get to put it on screen later on.
Yeah.
And so I do wish that I had more notes from the time that I was here to kind of say like, oh, this funny thing happened. And even if it might not be funny, 10 years from now,
Sure.
it's still interesting to be able to remember that, and also just to be able to reflect on something fun that happened and be able to, really like take it in.
So take more notes. We are almost at time. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity for those who are interested in this particular industry to feel free to reach out to my office, and we can hopefully connect them with you. You've been generous with your time before and done roundtables on what it's like to be a film writer and producer in LA too. So we'd love to be able to do
Absolutely.
more of that in the future. And again, it's so great to like physically have you here in this space that you've never been a part of
I've never been
before.
here. This is incredible, because again, I'm usually behind the camera, so just being on stage in front of all of you is really cool and exciting. So.
And when you see Ms. Hsiao around campus, when she's looking around today and maybe seeing some teachers, please introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about your story, and hopefully maybe there'll be a Thayer connection for a few years down the road.
Absolutely.
How did we do? 3, 2,
Wow, that was
1.
pressure.
Look at that. All right, well done.